Hi, I'm Daz at Greenwood, and this is a quick walkthrough of some of the main workflows supported by my new open source AI evaluation workbench that I called Lake Merritt. So here's how we dive in. You will start at the README or the main page if you're looking at it through this GitHub Pages project site. I do encourage you to take a look at this cool little overview video that talks about what the project is and what it's for. But this video here is just to dive through how to use it with some of the key supported workflows. So click on Quick Start, as I just did. That takes you to this nice page. You can run it locally, or I'll document this later. You could just run it online. Here you'll see I've got it running at Streamlit Community Cloud. The URL is just lakemerritt.streamlit.app. So I'll use that one just to shave a few seconds off the setup. The first workflow is a absolutely fundamental, simple as possible eval. This is also a teaching tool for those of you who maybe have never run an eval before. It's a CSV that we're going to be evaluating, and it has 3 columns. It's got an input, an output, and what the expected output would be for those inputs. So as an example, the input might be or in this case, the input is, what is the capital of France? The output we got from a model, I literally got from a model through the API, is the capital of France is Paris. The expected output is the word Paris. Okay. Summarize the plot of Hamlet, who wrote To Kill a Mockingbird. So that's just an example of an input, an output, and expected output. So here's how we run it. I've given you everything you need in a self-contained way on this set of walkthroughs. So here's the name of a CSV that we'll create. Let me open up a text editor. You can use any text editor. I'll save the file as, actually, you know what? Let's just make a new little folder here. Lake Merritt's walkthroughs. Okay, so you can follow along exactly like this. Name it manual_test.csv. I've provided the information that you put into it. Here it is. You can copy it or just use this copy button. Boom. That is, by the way, what a CSV looks like when you actually open it up. Now to run it, we'll go to Lake Merritt, go to the evaluate. Oh, the first thing I should say is you'll want to put API keys in here. So you grab an API key from OpenAI, or also supported as Anthropic with the Claude models, or Google with their Gemini models. I've already put my OpenAI API key in, and you kind of click Save, and you'll get a confirmation that you're ready to go. So then go to Evaluation Setup tab. Boom. Ensure Configure Manually is selected. It is. That's the default. And then under Evaluation Mode, Mode A, using existing expected outputs is selected, and that is the default. Then upload your CSV, select your scores, which I'll talk about, and then hit the evaluation button. So here's how that looks. This, by the way you see this will probably be a little bit more user-friendly, but you've got configure manually or upload an eval pack. That's a little bit more powerful way to do this, but the default is manually, and that's what this workflow is. Select evaluation mode. We're in mode A. It's already got all 3 columns of data. Mode B is where we start generating data. And the next step is upload it. So we can just browse the files. We go to that directory I just made. There we go. Double click, or you can drag it in. You can do a little preview to make sure it looks right. Previews the first several rows. It does look right. As I mentioned, you can now select your scores. We don't need exact match. So LLM as a judge is really what this is about. And this will invoke, the reason we need those API keys is it will basically send the evaluation task to a model so it can apply some reasoning, follow your instructions, and provide back in a structured way its evaluation of how well the expected output matched what the actual output was given that input. But there's some other scores, and depending on what kind of evaluation you're doing, sometimes you want like exact match, which we have, or fuzzy match is a very typical one where you want most of those words. You can configure them here on the fly in this manual mode. The eval packs are a lot more robust, but kind of select your models, select what the prompt is. I've got these sort of double encapsulations are what puts the input, expected output, and output in each of those API calls. You can also configure the fuzzy match, which is basically just a threshold. I don't know, let's make it like 40, and hit run, hit start eval. You can play with, I encourage you to play with all these to get a sense for, what they do and how it changes the eval when you change the parameters. I support two kinds of outputs. The immediate satisfaction output is where you go to first, which is just view results right now, and you can explore it a little bit. And then there's a download center where you can get a bunch of reports. So first, let's just immediately explore this, which is what I always like to do. So LLM as a judge, 100% pass rate. Great. Fuzzy match, only 1 out of 3 passed. There were only 3 questions. So why would that be? So let's look at the scoring here. So 3 passes, we've got a fail, a pass, and a fail, and this is the threshold. So this is why. It's because the number of words in Harper Lee were many fewer than Harper Lee, an American novelist, wrote the famous book. So that is only 0.303, which was below the 0.4 threshold that we set. Not enough words in common. I think the real action, honestly, from almost all the evals that I'm into is with the LLM as a judge. So let's say we want to dig in on that. So we'll look at the first one that had a pass from LLM as a judge and a fail from the fuzzy match. Here's the input, capital of France. The actual output that we got from the model, capital of France is Paris. The expected output, Paris. I would consider that for all like semantic purposes, like this person got it. It was an acceptable answer. Arguably, it was a better answer. It's a complete sentence, depending on what you're scoring for. We can get into that more fine-grained stuff in how to configure eval packs later. So click on LLM as a judge, gives you the reason, it gives you the pass that was allocated, 0.9, completely reasonable. Hit pass, the actual output correctly identifies Paris. Yep, however, there were more words, so it's slightly more verbose than the expected output, so it was not a perfect score. And then I just include here a little bit of information from the configuration file, just so you can have that at a glance when you're inspecting the outputs. Fuzzy match, what actually happened? Score 0.278, nope, why? Threshold 0.4, you saw me set it. And it gives some of the math there. So, and you can kind of go through and just immediately explore a number of these if you're curious what happened. Like, oh, we've got 2 passes here for item 2. Well, let's go down to item 2 for a detailed analysis. Input, actual output, expected output. Young Prince Denmark seeks revenge, murders. Yep, that's a pretty good summary of the plot of Hamlet, I think. A prince avenges his father's murder. Concise, but also good. I just chose that rather randomly as the ideal output, the expected output. So here's the reasoning. Key elements of the plot, blah, blah, seizing the throne. Yeah, so, and again, it mentions it's a bit more verbose, but it gave it a 0.7 and super legit. This also was a pass. It was slightly above the 443. Why is that? I don't want to get too deeply into all the different ways you can score these things, but if you just kind of count the words, there's a little algorithm and it has a lot of the same words in it. Okay, so there you have it. That is a complete run through of the simplest possible eval that you can do. And this is simple, but it is powerful. Knowing what the input, the output, and the expected output are for your AI-enabled app, whether that's a legal tech app or some personal consumer app or otherwise, is just absolutely fundamental. I go more into what the meaning of evals are and why they are important in other videos and in other documentation, but let's just say this is simple, but no less fundamental for it. Okay, in the next videos, I'll go through the other workflows.